Hello and welcome to Allegedly Astrology. Each week, we'll be breaking down the astrology that happened during some of the biggest scandals and events in history. Dana, what are we covering on this episode?
Today, we're talking about Saturn Returns with a very special guest, Astrologer Lauren Ash.
Woo! Welcome, Lauren.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yay! If you don't know or follow Lauren, which you should, and we'll link to her socials in the show notes, but Lauren is an astrologer, writer, media personality, mystic, and brand creative consultant. She's a senior editor at Parade, astrology.com, and horoscope.com. Covers astrology, horoscopes, and all the cosmic happenings. Worked with a ton of brands like Coach, Hulu, Moxie Hotels, Paramount, Pinterest, Starbucks, you name it. And her work has been featured in outlets like Bustle, Nylon, Pop Sugar, Women's Health, and so much more. So, Lauren, with that, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your big three and how you found your way to astrology?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So, I'm a child of the 90s, so I feel like I always knew my zodiac sign, but I actually got really into astrology in seventh grade when a girl in my class and I got paired together during like a find someone with your birthday month activity. And we had the same birthday, but I was a year older than her. So we both were born on July 9th and we were so different. She was so introverted and I'm so it just led me to be like, why are our zodiac signs so different? And then we fall down that rabbit hole. It all goes from there. So I'm a Cancer sun. I'm a Gemini moon. I'm a Leo rising. And
just like Dana.
Yeah, I have a real passion.
Leo rising sisters.
Leo
Jupiter on my ascendant. So I think like teaching was always going to be my sphere. So I'm happy I landed in the stars. So
amazing. And how did you decide to make it your full-time career?
So I was working full-time at my last job, my last 9 to 5. And my freelancing just got to the point where it was taking up so much of my time. And I literally remember crying on several full moons, I have to just quit my job so I can do the freelance. It won't take off if I don't have the time. And I put it off.
It's a scary
my Saturn return.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my boss just started being a bitch to me. I was like, all right, time to go. So
yes.
It all just kind of lined up and I quit my job and then started freelancing that month. So
amazing.
So cool.
Are you a Saturn in Capricorn?
Aquarius.
Saturn in Aquarius. Okay.
The preferred domicile.
Yeah.
I did everything. I started my business. I got married. I moved cities. I quit my job. I did everything.
What house is your Saturn in?
6. So a lot of change. Went back to therapy.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of.
I was going to say, did you have a health thing? But yeah,
I
therapy.
I had a crisis where I was nothing is the same as it was before.
Yep.
Yeah, I stopped functioning because of that.
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah.
Right. I was it's good change, but also I did not deal with the emotion part. That was a big part of my journey, I think.
Well, that's a good segue because today we are talking about Saturn Returns and we're looking at some of our fave celebs that are going through them right now. So let's just refresh everyone on what exactly a Saturn return is.
Okay, so a Saturn return is when transiting Saturn enters the sign of your natal Saturn. So let's say for Lauren, her Saturn is in Aquarius. When Saturn went into Aquarius, that was her Saturn return. And this happens about every 27 to 30 years because that's how long it takes Saturn to make its way around the complete zodiac. And your return, your return lasts about 3 years. It typically corresponds to these major milestones in your life. And it happens a few times. It's typically 27 to 31, 56 to 60. And if you make it, 84 to 90. But it brings reality checks, restriction, loss, responsibility. The upside is it rewards hard work and your patience and it brings structure to your life. But the downside is it's not easy.
Hard.
Yeah.
The second Saturn return coincides with the Jupiter return. So that one usually can be a little easier. But the first one, you get your ass handed to you. So
And the second one, you're all right, I've been through this before. I better know what this is like.
Yeah. And right now, Saturn is currently in Pisces, and it will be there until February 2026.
So all your Saturn in Pisces.
So much closer to, I'm like, we're so much further into that than I anticipated.
Time doesn't make sense.
At this time next year, both Saturn and Neptune will be in Aries. So we'll be in a completely different stage.
It absolutely is that with Saturn and
Uranus will be
like, time doesn't feel real. It's like, well,
I know.
Saturn.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. But yeah, all you Saturn and Pisces BBs, we see you. And this episode is for you. But so Lauren shared with us a little bit of her life lessons that she learned during Saturn in Aquarius in her 6th house. Dana, want to share some life lessons from your Saturn return? Give us the highlights.
There were none, but I just feel like you can't do it wrong, which I think, especially when we started our Saturn return in 2018.
We are Saturn in Capricorn. And why we, me, Dana, and Sarah, we are Saturn in Capricorn.
So our Saturn return, ours was the end of December 2017 through December 2020 with a brief intermission from like April or March 2020 through July or through June. But yeah, you can't do it wrong. Maybe it'll really suck. Maybe it'll be good and it'll suck. It won't be easy, I think, in any. Even if all your dreams come true, it won't be easy. Something probably like an ending or a loss could occur. Or it could be about trade-offs. We started the podcast during the end of our Saturn return. I started doing astrology for work during my Saturn return. And I used to work in insurance, which is a little different, although I did employee claims. So pattern recognition was a big thing there too. But yeah. My biggest advice, because I was so worried about doing it wrong, and also because I was like, mine was so unpleasant that I don't think you can do it wrong. And also, it's not, your like lessons are not confined to your Saturn return. They continue after.
And Dana, what house is your Saturn in?
Mine's in my 6th.
In your 6th as well. You and Lauren. Right. Leo rising. Duh.
Yeah. I went on antidepressants, Wellbutrin. Which is medical thing, a very 6th house thing. Oh, yeah, see?
Yeah. Sarah, what are some of your Saturn return lessons?
So my Saturn is in my 4th house, and it also coincided with, I have a 4th house stellium. My son's in my 4th house, and my moon is in my 10th house. And it also coincided with the eclipses in Capricorn and Cancer. So I also had a big move. I moved from Chicago to Miami during this time. And I think it was the theme was more about a lot of endings. Like all my family and friends were in Chicago at the time. So I feel like it was all about almost loss, leaving this life that I knew for a new life, which ultimately, again, it was very, very hard in the moment. But now I'm like, oh, moving was a big part of my current development in life. So it is hard. I'm a Cancer moon, a lot of tears were shed. I think it was good in the end.
That also, too, was coming after Pluto went over all of your planets. So you were dealing with over a decade of...
It was a wild time.
Yeah.
I feel like the ending in astrology thing, everyone kind of talks about it like it's something that happens to you. But in your case, it sounds like it was a choice you were making to take the next step.
Yeah.
And that can still be bittersweet, even though it's something you're choosing to do.
You're leaving something behind.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I had just come off of a tough breakup when my Saturn return started. So I feel like I started that time with a lot of heartbreak and insecurity. And my Saturn's in my 1st house, which is all about yourself and your confidence. And I think it has to do with your appearance too. And my Saturn return journey was very tied to my self-identity and self-worth. I had struggled with the fear of rejection and the fear of the unknown, and life is unfair, kind of dealing with all of that fear. But speaking of appearances, I got a nose job at the end of my Saturn return.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel and that was something so tied to my personal insecurities. And I had wanted to do it for so long, but I felt like I needed to do it for the right reason, which is for myself and not for other people. Or to be accepted by other people. I did it to finally be accepted by myself. And I feel like that was a very apropos life lesson. But I ended my Saturn return with a boyfriend who's now my husband.
Oh my
so
God.
started with a breakup, ended with a boyfriend.
That's the way
That's
to
so
do
first
it.
That's the way to do it.
I love that.
Very first house. All right. So now that we've heard a little bit more of our personal stories, let's get into some celebs that are now in the midst of their Saturn returns.
Okay, first is a gentleman. I can never pronounce his name correct. Elise, can you say it?
Timothée Chalamet.
Yes. So he is a French-American actor. He's considered by a lot of people to be among the most talented actors of his generation. His first major role was in Christopher Nolan's sci-fi thriller Interstellar, but he really popped off in 2017 for his role in Call Me By Your Name, which earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, which made him the third youngest nominee in the category. So he was like real chic.
He's a LaGuardia high school kid. He's peak theater performer, dancer. Like he does it all. This was sort of like he was building up to this point. But he's been in movies like Dune, Willy Wonka. Right now he's filming a biopic about Bob Dylan. He's very much a Gen Z sex symbol. I don't know if I would consider him a sex symbol, but he's also like a very fashion icon. He dated Lily Rose Depp and had that really unfortunate makeout paparazzi incident. Currently, he's dating Kylie Jenner, which I am personally very conflicted about. But Dana, kick us off. What is his birth chart like?
I'll just say, I never thought of him as a sex symbol, but I do think he's super hot, which I guess makes him a sex symbol.
Maybe he will grow into the sex symbol. For me, he still seems very like boy.
Sure,
but
sure.
I think he's just young.
Yeah, he's
like,
just young.
I get it, but I'm like, I get it for the young girl.
Yes, exactly. Maybe after his Saturn return, we'll see him more evolve into a man.
Anyway, he was born on December 27th, 1995 at 9:16 p.m. in Manhattan, New York, and he has a Capricorn sun, a Pisces moon, and a Virgo rising. So his Capricorn sun is in his natal 5th house of acting, being an artist, and romance. And it's ruled by his Saturn and Pisces in his natal 7th house. So relationships play a major role in how he sees himself, and likely he probably enjoys being in relationships. And Saturn is the 3rd house from his 5th house, which is community theater. And his Capricorn sun in his 5th house is why he's a serious actor. And also he has dry wit. Also, when I first was like, oh, this guy's hot, I watched a few interviews with him on YouTube. And people would ask him how to pronounce his name. And he would be like, whatever you want to say, which I feel like is very Capricorn sun, like not going to take or like waste the time to like educate someone when it's like, just call me whatever you want. Call me by your name. And then he has a Pisces moon and it's in his natal 7th house. So he's super sensitive in relationships. He needs harmony in relationships and like romance in order to maintain his general homeostasis. It's ruled by Jupiter and domicile in Sagittarius in his natal 4th house. So he likes to keep relationships low key or private. The 4th house is the house of private life. And he doesn't really talk about them publicly unless he does. I don't think he does, right? His Pisces moon is co-present with Saturn. So he also is solemn. He has serious emotions, probably really spends time like thinking about them, or maybe he avoids them. And that's what he's coming up against. But his Pisces moon also squares the Jupiter that rules it. So he's just like really emotional, loves his family, probably has big emotions and follows his heart. And then he has a Virgo rising, which is ruled by his natal Mercury in Capricorn in his 5th house. So his home is the stage. And Mercury is conjunct his exalted Mars, Neptune, and Uranus all in his 5th house. And of course, they're co-present with his Capricorn sun. So he's super Capricorn, just like Sarah. And so he's a materialist and he plays the long game. He's not impulsive with his actions or his words. And he's able to play a lot of roles with all these planets there in his 5th house. And this made me think of the Jenny Holzer truism, a sense of timing is a mark of genius, because I think that might be at least part of the key to him being an extremely talented actor. He has a great sense of timing.
Love that. Lauren, what do you see in his chart?
Yeah, the Capricorn energy jumps out to me immediately. I do think it's really interesting, the conversation of like, who is the next generation of great actors, great singers. And I always find it funny when it's like a Saturn in Pisces, right? We're trying to get serious. Like, who are our serious creatives? Like, who's shaping the next generation, the voice, the spirit, the essence of it? And I find it really interesting because I think that Saturn in Pisces is very hard to pin down. And so I think for him, especially what I'm looking at when his chart, I wonder if at some point his values with work might change, particularly like when it comes time to start his own family. I wonder if that might cause him to make some decisions with his career that take him out of the spotlight for a bit. But I never see him leaving it with all of that Capricorn in the fifth. I just wonder if at some point maybe he starts thinking about it at this time or maybe after. When does that Capricorn in the fifth turn into like the fatherly energy?
I love that.
Interesting.
That's my question, especially with the Kylie rumors. They're always rumors. But I wonder also with how seriously he takes his career, if any sort of relationship rumor and drama might also play into the public's perception of him.
Yeah,
for sure.
Those are two themes that I really think about with energy like this.
I bet while I'm writing the fan fiction, based on what you just said, like I could see him doing family stuff and doing like, I don't know, like local theater, which local for New York is Broadway. Maybe
Lols.
Maybe that's what will happen.
Local theater,
Yeah, maybe,
aka Broadway.
Maybe like getting back to his roots, his like theater start.
Mm-hmm.
Just a hot theater
Interesting.
kid.
Lauren kind of touched on this, but he doesn't like to talk about the relationships because he's very focused on his job. Like, what do you think that he would choose his job over a relationship? Let's talk a little bit more of some themes of his Saturn return.
I wonder if he at some point will consider what does a serious actor look like, right? Because he's kind of in this mid-20s cohort of like, you've got some of the Euphoria kids. Some of them have clearly broken out, like a Zendaya. Like Zendaya's a star. You've got some other that are kind of fading in the background. So I wonder also, especially with that Capricorn in the fifth, if he's worried about like, how do you make that transition to a timeless Hollywood A-lister? And what do you have to achieve creatively? I think he has that. I think now he's thinking about creative legacy. So I think that's interesting about community theater. Like maybe does he give back to the spaces that helped bring him up as a way to establish himself? Does he, get back to his roots and take on a more humble, creative venture to get back to the heart and the essence of the work? I think that's those Saturn and Pisces, right? Getting back, why am I doing this? So I'm curious to see, especially with a lot of these younger actors, how it's playing out, because this is the first time in a while we've had Saturn out of it. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to feel different, especially.
I like that. So,
All right, Dana, take us through some peak dates. What should we look out for Timothée?
okay, so the era of the Saturn return for all people who have Saturn in Pisces is from March 7th, 2023 through February 13th, 2026, with an intermission for summer 2025 when Saturn slips into Aries from May 24th through September 1st. So his Saturn return perfects on June 11th, 2024, July 18th, 2024, and February 18th, 2025. And it stations retrograde in a partile conjunction at 19 degrees. A partile conjunction is just the exact conjunction. So 19 degrees is his Saturn, and that's where Saturn stations retrograde on June 29th, 2024. And so this is drawn out lessons. If your Saturn is conjunct one of the degrees where it stations, you will have a very sort of Saturn return. It'll be extra long and drawn out for a bit. And transiting Saturn is, so the days when it'll be partile conjunction is June 6th, 2024 through July 22nd, 2024, and February 14th through February 23rd, 2025. So some themes, his Saturn, again, is ruled by Jupiter in domicile in Sagittarius in his natal fourth house. So his supportive family could be a theme. That would probably be something private. He probably definitely has private matters occurring. Saturn, again, rules that Capricorn stellium, where he has his chart ruler and his sun. So his Saturn return will fundamentally change and challenge how he sees himself, his art, perhaps the roles he takes, sort of what Lauren was just saying. I hadn't thought about it that deeply, but that's exactly what I was kind of trying to get at, I think. And then Saturn rules his natal Venus in Aquarius in his sixth house, which rules his natal midheaven in Taurus. So how the public sees him could also change. And his Saturn return will be about romance and commitment or breakups, with activations of the Capricorn fifth house of romance, dating, and libido, and his Aquarius sixth house, where he has its natal Venus, the planet of love, his natal seventh house of marriage, committed partnerships. And of course, that's where his Saturn and his moon are. So it's emotional. And then
do you think that this is Kylie and him's breakup time? Is this make it or break it?
It could definitely be. I mean, unless it's like the seventh house could also be about major contracts. So maybe if the relationship is not that serious, then this is just, then it's probably not about that. Although,
or he signs the contract for the movie that's going to get him his first Oscar.
I would love that.
Well, I wonder too, like today, this moment we're recording, and there's a ton of articles about him and Elle Fanning on the set of the Bob Dylan movie, and that they're being cuddly, mixed in with these news articles about how he's not making Kylie a priority. So I wonder, like, I think it's very interesting. Like,
maybe it's teeing it up. Also, they were in that Woody Allen movie together. So I feel like Timothée and Elle Fanning that would be a cute couple, I think.
Oh, so this is interesting. So I actually looked up Tom Holland Saturn because I was like, is he in this? He's actually at Saturn in Aries. So I just saw this Beatles film considering Tom Holland and Timothée Chalamet. I wonder if when Saturn retrogrades into Aries, if there might be a bit of creative competition with those two.
Ooh, that could be cool.
I feel like they're always being compared, but I think Timothée has the more stacked IMDb person.
Yeah, definitely.
But like to your point, like the Beatles movie could like.
I know. I heard that they're doing all people from the UK for that. But Tom Holland is British, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Dana, anything else you want to mention?
I mean, yeah, Saturn will be about money and contracts. It again rules his fifth house of acting. It's the exaltation ruler of his second house. So maybe he'll get a really big payday. And then concurrently, he will have eclipses on his natal moon and in his seventh and first house. So that's a huge deal. So his Saturn will be eclipsed like Sarah's was. And then Neptune's also crossing his natal moon. So that has 5 exact dates. It's May 23rd, 2023, August 7th, 2023, March 16th, 2024, November 11th, 2024, and January 2nd, 2025. And Neptune is affecting the Saturn return for everyone who has their Saturn in Pisces. It will also affect people who have their Saturn in Aries. And so Neptune makes things, it's the planet of deception, confusion, intoxication. So he can, feel confused about his feelings. Maybe he'll take a role that's very either challenging or where he mutates his feelings. And then his moon rules his natal 11th house of audience. So this could maybe be related to his already booming fandom or that person who
loves Chalamet.
Yes, that's it. She's so wild.
That's with her.
She's great.
Wait, who is this? Who is this?
A 54-year-old fan club runner
woman
tweeted on 9/11 that she was supposed to be going to an interview for a job in the World Trade Centers on 9/11. Sorry, and everyone was like, how, Timothée wasn't even he was like he was
how deep is the lore?
Yeah.
Weird.
But yeah, she's pretty fun.
Okay.
When Timmy and Kylie got together, the reason she's huge, right? She always just tweet updates about it. But when Tim and Kylie first got together, she made this long ass Twitter post that was like, Timothée Chalamet is a grown man and he can make whatever mistakes.
Oh my God.
And we at Club Chalamet, it's just her. We at Club Chalamet are committed to sticking to the professional updates. We will not be doing romantic updates because this is about the work.
Wow.
I love that.
I love that. Okay.
She's great.
All right. And all right, I think that's a wrap on Timothée. We'll have to see, but some interesting things are coming for him.
If he signs a big contract for a movie, I'm going to be like,
of course he will because it's him.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's probably going to be the most poignant, role of his career is going to happen.
And I think it's going to be the next Dune movie. I think people know that one's going to be good. I think it's going to be something different.
Yes.
Dope. Well, on to the next one. So our next celeb is Thee Stallion. And she is an American rapper, singer, actress, and songwriter. She's known as, also like Timothée, a sex symbol. And I love this, originated the viral catchphrase, Hot Girl Summer. She's famous for her songs like Body, the Savage remix, and her guest appearance on Cardi B's WAP, which I remember, I think that came out during COVID summer 2020, and it honestly helped me continue to carry on in life. But she's awesome. She's won Grammys, BET Awards, MTV, VMAs, Billboard Awards. She was named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people. So she's a big deal.
Yes. And Megan was shot in 2020 in the foot by Canadian rapper Tory Lanez. And right now, people are currently mad at Eminem for referencing it in his new song, Houdini. And I mean, I don't really want to rap this line, but you can look it up. But it was
rap it like
no. Oh,
If I was to ask Megan Thee Stallion, I can't even
is
do
that
it.
how you're gonna do it?
I'm trying to do Eminem voice, but I can't.
Okay, if I was to ask Megan Thee Stallion if she would collab with me, would I really have a shot at a feat?
Oh no,
FEAT, shot in the foot. Got it. Anyway,
it's like a dad joke.
Yeah,
Eminem is a dad. So right now she is on her aptly named she's on her aptly named Hot Girl Summer tour, and it's doing great. So Dana, tell us about her big three.
Megan was born on February 15th, 1995 at 11 a.m. in San Antonio, Texas. And this chart has a C rating for Time, but she's confirmed that she's a Taurus rising. So that's pretty much what's necessary. So she's an Aquarius sun, a Leo moon, and a Taurus rising. And her Aquarius sun means that she stands out, but people will try to cut her down to size. And it's in her natal 10th house of publicity and public life, career, and fame. So people will always have an opinion on her, and like they'll think they know who she is, but she's able to sort of cultivate her image and project what she wants out there. And she wants to be famous. She thrives in that environment. And her sun's ruled by Saturn in Pisces in the natal 11th house of audience, fans, hopes and dreams, also business profits. And it's the second house from her natal 10th house. So she also has that, plus Jupiter conjunct Pluto in her natal 8th house. So these are both wealth aspects, and especially since Jupiter and Saturn are in a tight square. So I think that her money is long, and it's getting longer. And she has a Leo moon. She was born on a full moon, so she is here for relationships. That's generally at least one major part of the people who are born on full moons will definitely find themselves being challenged and finding themselves in a relationship. She's sensitive, but she literally needs attention. That's a Leo moon thing. It's a need. It's not a want. They're not being dramatic. They need attention, and they know how to get it. And it's in her natal 4th house of home, parents, and endings, and the house of her private life. It's also conjunct her natal Mars retrograde in Leo, and she tragically lost her mother in 2019 to brain cancer. And so that's definitely one thing that can happen. Also, she needs time to be alone and like to decompress physically, emotionally in her home. And she's definitely self-directed and probably has a really loud inner monologue. Hopefully she's not too hard on herself, which could definitely happen with Mars conjunct the moon, but especially Mars retrograde conjunct the moon. And then her Taurus rising, she's hot and driven by material comfort. She's ruled by her natal Venus in Capricorn in her 9th house. So she's smart. Maybe she'll live abroad at some point, or maybe she'll marry someone foreign. And she's oriented towards relationships. Like she wants to be secure. She also wants to be with people who are secure. She wants to fall in love. She's romantic. And she also has a strong aesthetic sense or a strong sense of her own aesthetic. And she loves beautiful things. Her natal Venus is also co-present with Neptune and Uranus. So relationships can come on strong and people might misrepresent themselves or shoot her in the foot. Things could be fucked up for her in that way.
Almost sad.
Oh, God.
And then Mercury is stationed direct 12 hours after she was born in Aquarius. And Mercury is so smart in Aquarius. So communication plays a major role in her life. And she's definitely like smart as a whip.
Smart as a whip.
Smart as a whip.
That's a boomer. That's a boomer thing
One
to
of my
say.
old supervisors told me that. And I was like,
That you were smart as a whip.
yeah,
Whip.
a whip. She said a whip. Smart as a whip.
Lauren, anything to add? I know you did a whole TikTok series on Megan Thee Stallion. So anything that you want to say? Yes.
Yeah. I think the obvious, I think this is one of those examples of astrology being very obvious. Her Saturn is in the 11th. We've got that really strong square with that Pluto placement. Like what I think is the most interesting about Megan is it feels like people always get the sense that they can play the victim successfully against her.
Interesting.
They are totally in the wrong. And we've seen it like not just with the Tory stuff, but people who try to start beef with her It's very interesting. So I think that very strong square from her Pluto to her Saturn is really telling her, like, you got to cut out these half-assed relationships and be kind of vicious about it. I think she needs to be, I think she's probably at this point now, but I think she was probably a lot more trusting in her social, and especially with community, not even just like friendships, like, oh, we're all in community together. We all do rap. We all do music. We've got each other's back. I think that that's something she's really learning about, reinforcing those boundaries. But I love it. She is definitely getting hotter, definitely getting more successful. I always find it interesting when Saturn has already transited over someone's sun before their Saturn return, especially when hers is like so high in her chart. So to me, it kind of feels like she's had a little bit of the reality check. She has to do the work now. We're going to keep redirecting her.
Yeah, since it went over her chart ruler, Venus, and then it went over her sun, and then her Saturn also.
Yeah,
It was
and she
and her
dealt with all that
Jupiter.
stuff with her mother. And,
Yeah, that's so sad.
Oh,
She
yeah.
dealt with a lot of loss at such an early age, you know.
Which is very Saturnian. Also,
And I think she was also trying to get her degree and like finish school and do all
cool.
of that while that was happening.
That's so
too.
ninth house.
So,
the Jupiter-Saturn cycle is one way to measure time and culture. And when people have Jupiter square Saturn, they were born at a pivot point. So I feel like stars with this will probably be big, like people who pivot their medium or like their sector forward. So, I mean, her and Timothée have
she's
that.
kind of like ushering in the new era of, yeah, like you said, she coined Hot Girl Summer. So she's kind of the blueprint almost.
I love that. She's so cool.
So she
love
has
her.
an 11th house Saturn.
Mhm.
Dana, take us through some themes, remind us what the 11th house represents, and some key dates for her.
So once again, her Saturn return, just like everyone else's in this episode, is from March 7th, 2023 through February 13th, 2026. Her Saturn return perfects on March 24th, 2024, November 5th, 2024, and November 25th, 2024. So Saturn stations direct actually in partial conjunction at 12 degrees with her natal Saturn on November 15th, 2024. So just like Timothée, she'll have drawn out lessons, and transiting Saturn will be at that degree from March 18th through March 26th, 2024, and then much longer from October 27th through December 4th, 2024, which will be only 2 days before Mars stations retrograde in Leo, and she has natal Mars retrograde in Leo. So that will also be it'll go right into another big turning point for her. And so her Saturn is ruled by Jupiter in Sagittarius at her natal 8th. So she's probably good at negotiating contracts and money, and I bet she'll marry rich. Saturn rules her Capricorn Venus, which is her chart ruler, and her sun in Aquarius. And Saturn also rules her midheaven, whether it's in Capricorn or Aquarius. So just like Timothée, with her sun activated, her chart ruler activated, and her midheaven all activated by her Saturn return, she'll experience a fundamental change on how she sees herself and the way the public sees her. Saturn also rules her Libra 6th house by exaltation, and she's been on a fitness journey. If you follow her on Instagram, she posts pictures of her working out. And so her Saturn return will be about self, work, audience, faith, education. With the activations to her natal 9th house, it could be about spirituality and faith, long distance travel and knowledge and religion. She also has that natal Venus here in Capricorn. So she's always been hot. She's getting hotter, and she's dedicated to her look. And so she will probably maybe continue to experience physical changes or health changes. And then with her Aquarius 10th house activated, and her sun and her retrograde Mercury there, she could receive unfair scrutiny, which is a huge Saturn topic from the public. And she could maybe change her career or how she conducts herself. Also, though, she'll probably cement herself in history if she hasn't already. Although she did, of course, coin Hot Girl Summer and Wet Ass Pussy. So there we are. And then again, with Saturn in her 11th house, it'll be probably about long-term business profits, setting major goals for herself, having a huge, really dedicated fans. So maybe she'll get fans like Taylor Swift, like Swifties.
11th house Saturn, getting just like connecting more with her audience.
getting the clout she deserves.
Yes.
She's been hustling for a while. Yeah.
Love that. Anything else to add, Lauren?
All tongues that rise against Megan Thee Stallion shall fall.
Love that. Great.
It is now.
That's awesome.
That's the ninth house thing.
I'm such a huge fan of hers.
Yes, like I said before, Lauren has an awesome TikTok series on her, so you guys have to check it out. But finally, we have Sophie Turner. We covered her in an episode last season, and she is an English actress known for her role as Sansa Stark on Game of Thrones. She's been in movies like the X-Men franchise, and she was married to Joe Jonas, and they have 2 kids, but as of 2023, they've been in the process of getting a divorce. And so she had to sue him so she could take her girls back to England to live. It was a pretty messy divorce situation, and I think it's still ongoing. I don't think it's been finalized yet.
Yeah, it's not final. It was also weird that it was so messy because up until then they'd been like very private about their lives. So it kind of came out of nowhere. But I mean, though it was messy, as of right now, they figured out a temporary custody arrangement. But regardless of what's, if the custody moment is chill, this was really hard on her, the whole divorce. Joe had made allegations that she was a bad mom. And that's something that, one, she denied, but it also hit her really hard. And right now, she's, doing a lot better than she was back then. She's on the cover of British Vogue's June 2024 issue. She moved back to the UK. She's dating an aristocrat named Peregrine Perry Pearson.
Ridiculous name.
I know. It is so aristocratic, so English aristocratic. But she announced she's also going to star in a sci-fi film called Cloud One. So,
cool.
She's working. So what's her big 3?
So she was born on February 21st, 1996 at 8:10 a.m. in Northampton, England. And this chart has a DD rating, so the rising might not be exact, but we use it. And so far it's worked. So she has a Pisces sun and an Aries moon and rising, and her Pisces sun is in her natal 12th house of privacy, intuition, and needing alone time, hospitals, self-undoing. It's ruled by her natal Jupiter, which is in fall in Capricorn, and that's conjunct her natal midheaven. So she's famous, but she has to work probably 10 times harder than her peers, which even though we don't see it, that's what happens when Jupiter's in its fall.
Interesting. So Timothée, his chart lends itself much more easily to fame and jobs, and her chart doesn't. So is that kind of what you mean? She still has the fame, but she has to work so much harder?
Yeah, there could be struggles we don't see, especially with that ruling her 12th house. Maybe she gets passed up for things, or the 12th house is also the house of hidden enemies. So maybe she has rivals who have taken her roles, or maybe things aren't always fairly done. But yeah, in general, she can work really hard with the Jupiter in Capricorn, but she works 10 times harder. And maybe she's not always I'm sure if anything, if she's optimistic, she's cautiously optimistic, and people might not always be fair to her. But she's famous, but she moves in the shadows. Her Pisces sun is in the 12th house, and it's Pisces, so it moves in her sleep too. And then she has an Aries moon and rising, so she's self-motivated, goal-oriented, super fun. This is that video of her chugging wine at that game.
Yes, I was going to say, she seems so fun.
I know.
I want to drink with her.
Same. I want to chug wine.
I want to chug wine with her at a hockey game or whatever that was.
Yeah. Her emotions are quick, and she wears them on her sleeve, sort of like Rihanna. She's the same big 3 as Rihanna. And
whoa.
I know. 2 of the coolest people ever. And coolest famous people. She also has Venus conjunct the South Node and Aries in her first house. So she makes an impression probably on everyone who meets her. It's hard to forget. People are magnetized to her. Also, romantic partners might be harsh on her or unfair or expect things of her.
See, the bad mom thing, that's the harshest thing you can do to someone, especially in a divorce situation.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Messed up.
And then she has a 12th that her sun is in a stellium in her 12th house. So she has a Sun-Mars conjunction, and Saturn rejoices in her 12th house. So she has hidden enemies shape how she sees herself, but she's also able to bounce back. Both of her malefics are here. So she can fight back, even if it does undue or, destruction to her. She bounces back no matter what. And then she also has Mercury in Aquarius conjunct Uranus, which is an aspect of genius. So I like that for her. I just like Megan. I bet she's smart as a whip.
Lauren, what do you see in Sophie Turner's chart?
Yeah. So as a 12th house sun myself, I always send my condolences when I see this chart. Yeah. And the thing you said about moving behind the scenes, I wonder, especially with her, if the shadow of her first creative project, I wonder if the shadow of Game of Thrones follows her in a way that forces her to have to work harder to prove herself, especially because, and I read the books and I did like Sansa in the book, but Sansa is I would say in the fandom, a generally unlikable character sometimes. So I wonder if Sophie feels that she has to work extra hard to not only break out of the shadow of Game of Thrones, but also like the character itself. The other thing, I pulled Joe Jonas's chart up, and I believe if this chart is accurate, I'm not how sure, but he's got a Libra rising. So they've got kind of a flipped situation, and he's got Saturn in Capricorn in his fourth. So I wonder so much, especially with her Jupiter on her MC in Capricorn, I've always got the sense there was some sort of like professional jealousy with him. He's on a world tour with his brothers, reliving the nostalgic glory days, saying you're a bad parent. So yeah, so I really am interested in how she's going to redefine herself outside of this sort of relationship. So I think a big thing with Sun in the 12th, especially with her Saturn there, I wonder, like, it's easy to sleepwalk. It's easy to be like, oh, I'm somewhere comfortable, like maybe this wasn't the dream, but like I'm happy here. So I wonder if her Saturn return is really going to be like hey, remember how much harder you have to work than everyone?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to be that reality check for her.
Reality check. For some reason, I got chills.
Not like she's another one, right?
Yeah, I'm like, oh,
Poor
God.
girl.
So, Dana, what are some of the themes of her Saturn return? So her Saturn is in her 12th house?
Yes. And so her Saturn return perfects on March 31st, 2025. She only has one exact day, but it stations retrograde close to her Saturn on November 28th, 2025 will also maybe be a day to look out where it's pretty close. So as Saturn retrogrades from Aries back into Pisces and then it stations at 25, the end of summer and fall 2025 could be a time where things are looming for her, especially career-wise. Maybe something would be announced and then it would be changed or revoked. And her transiting Saturn is in conjunction with her natal Saturn March 27th through April 5th, 2025. And Saturn also crossed her Sun and Mars. So that's sort of, that really relates to Joe Jonas throwing shit in her way. That speaks to Joe Jonas trying to not let her take the kids with her when she works to London. Mars' pursuit.
Challenging her authority.
Yeah. And especially Mars' its pursuit, it's her chart ruler. So Saturn stopping, it's like you cannot do that anymore. And so she has to go through channels to fix that. And so Saturn rules, it's ruled by Jupiter and fall in her natal 10th house in Capricorn. It's conjunct her midheaven. So her public Saturn return is also a public divorce. And Jupiter in fall ruled by Saturn. Her fame is boosted for sad reasons, though. But her Jupiter and Saturn are in mutual reception and they sextile each other. So even though Jupiter is debilitated and she has to work really hard, she knows what she has to do to come out on like the other side of every difficulty. Also with Jupiter on her midheaven, she wins the divorce. Jupiter, if you're electing a chart and you want to win something, Jupiter on the midheaven is a good place. Also, Saturn rules her 7th house by exaltation. So she's being liberated from a shitty relationship. Saturn ends the relationship and it's also liberating her, especially with the North Node transiting her 1st house. She's being like redefined as herself. It's also her nodal opposition. So she's going through so many things. So Saturn can be about work, popularity, solitude, romance. It's also rules her Aquarius 11th house where she has that Mercury-Uranus conjunction. So again, maybe being cautiously optimistic. Maybe figuring out some loopholes and being able to use them. That would be very Aquarius and Uranus. Maybe she'll work with friends. Also, getting dinner with Taylor Swift and others in the paparazzi, photographing them for a few weeks after the divorce went public. That's also winning the divorce, but it's like winning with friends. That's very 11th house. So she's a network and it's a team victory.
Network, Taylor Swift. Remember? Did you see that she thanked Taylor Swift for basically saving her during this divorce situation because Taylor gave her a place to live when Joe wouldn't let her take the kids to England. And like the paparazzi was insane. And so she let her stay with them and have her security. And she talked a little bit about it, I think, in that British Vogue article about, she was like, she literally saved my life. And I feel like this network of Taylor Swift friends that she's like making, I feel like has been giving her a lot. I think it will also maybe curry favor in the public a little bit more.
That's wonderful.
Probably. Yeah.
So yeah, and then her Saturn in her 12th house, it's about ending solitudes, identity pursuit, intuition. Because her sun Mars conjunct there. It could be about healthy or unhealthy addictions in a worst case scenario. Saturn in the 12th house, it's where it rejoices. So this could also be when she learns how to be alone in a way that's like really restorative and just for her. Pisces famously can give too much in relationships. So she can finally...
yeah, especially female Pisces.
Sesh.
Yeah.
Famously.
Sesh. Famously.
It's why I love them, but it's also why they have the worst exes.
Yes, they do have the word exes. Oh my God. So true.
It's like cartoon villain. Like,
Yeah, for real.
Oh my God. What do you think Sophie's biggest lesson will be coming out of her Saturn return, Lauren?
I think a big thing that Sophie is going to learn is community through taking herself out of isolation. I think Saturn in her 12th is like you said, it's a natural point of healing in isolation, but that sun in the 12th, I keep going back to it. I feel like she punishes herself sometimes. And I think that by being vulnerable about what she was going through, she's going to endear the public to her a lot.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's going to really reveal like, oh, wow, like you were suffering in silence a lot with some stuff that I think a lot of women could maybe relate to in their own relationship struggles. And then I'm always interested when Saturn is going to move over another part of someone's chart in a major way. So she's got a lot of that Aries energy. So I think she's going through a spiritual and a psychological undoing. I don't think it all has to be bad. And I think it's really priming her for this like Phoenix from the ashes, Aries in the first. You got to build yourself from scratch again.
Yeah.
And like, how liberating is that? So I think she's doing the hard inner work right now. So hopeful that community can continue to be there for her, especially with the legal drama.
Yes. Seems like it. I would do a lot to get in with that group of Swifties.
You would do a lot.
Just Taylor Swift's lawyers.
Yeah.
I would give anything to Taylor Swift's lawyers.
I just
for
want
my
to be in that
divorce.
network. The network has it all.
Yeah, same. Who wouldn't?
Same. Who wouldn't? Truly. Well, all right. So we looked at Timothée Chalamet. He has Saturn in the 7th house. We looked at Megan Thee Stallion, Saturn in the 11th, and Sophie Turner, Saturn in the 12th. And we're looking at what all of their Saturn returns are going to be like. So we'll all have to stay tuned, but this is going to be a really interesting time. And if you are going through it, fear not, you will come out on the other end stronger and better and wiser. So thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us. Where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a blast. I'm at Lauren Ash Astro on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere. And then you can find me writing horoscopes at Astrology, Parade, and horoscope.com. So
yeah, definitely. We will link all of those social handles in the show notes. And with that, I'm Elise.
I'm Dana.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Allegedly Astrology.
Bye. Goodbye.